so much for joining us today for our Future Teacher Network Teacher Talks. It's a pleasure to have you here. We are just going to get started with the first question. Does that okay?
Yes, that's perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, so do you want to, are you going to read them or do you just want me to go
Yeah,
to
I can read them for you. So today we have Ms. Elizabeth Montano. Can you please share a little bit about yourself? I know that you have worked in education for about 19 years and recently transitioned to being an administrator. So I'd just like to hear a little bit more about your background and about that transition.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Andrea, for inviting me to speak to future teachers. I was a middle school teacher for the past 19 years. This is my 20th year in education. And those 19 years, I taught 7th and 8th grade social studies. And, after 19 years in the classroom, it was, I really wanted to have a bigger sphere of influence.
Mhm.
And I felt like, every year I had about 150 students that I, had some kind of influence over, but I felt like I could do more. Like I could make bigger changes, more effective changes within the community and the whole school as a whole if I was an administrator. So this last year, I moved over to the dark side, as they call it. Yeah, so it's my first year as an administrator, and it's been the transition has been really great. I loved being a teacher. I loved the one-on-one with the students, but I definitely love being an administrator. I've learned so much in just the past month, the past 2 months, but it's been a good transition. I think it was a good change. I think so many years as a teacher has really, kept me grounded. I think the biggest flaw I sometimes as an administrator is that you forget what it was like to be a teacher and you don't necessarily have the same compassion for teachers that are struggling or, there's just a different feeling with you've only taught 5 years and go into admin. But I think so after so many years of being an admin, I just constantly I keep putting on, my teacher hat and I feel like it just helps me stay grounded and be more understanding of what teachers are going through right now.
Perfect. Thank you. So what made you become a teacher and then later an administrator? And what do you think is the most rewarding part of these roles?
Well, initially, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a police officer. And as I got a little bit older, I realized, you know what, I want to affect, I've always wanted to change things. I've always wanted to, be a positive influence. And I figured if I'm a teacher, specifically middle school, that's such a key time in a child's life where you really make all these decisions. I figured I want to get them before they meet the police officer. So a teacher and middle school in particular, I thought was like going to be the most effective when students are really, making choices and deciding what they want to do with their lives. And like I said, to later jump into administration, I just wanted a bigger influence. That I've always felt like, society can be so much better, and the school system is definitely, I see it as, a hub of resources for the community. And I think that's really, from the classroom, you're affecting your students, then the entire school, and then the community from there, I think could really change depending on what's happening at the school.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you. And could you share what is one of the most challenging parts about being a teacher or administrator? I know you said you just transitioned, so either or works.
So I think the biggest challenge as a teacher, especially the first 5 to 7 years, was just classroom management.
Mm.
Classroom management was always, an issue. I think the first and second year, you're just trying to figure out your routines, trying to really establish what does it mean? How do students ask for help? How do students move around the classroom? How do you grade? All the paperwork and like all the politics of being a teacher is the hardest really to maneuver because no one really trains you on each district and the policies that each district has. Then I believe that's also been one of the biggest challenges moving into administration. Just knowing how each district is very different. Each district has different rules. Each school even has, different rules. So really just maneuvering all those different political aspects of each district has been the most challenging.
Perfect. Thank you. And you brought this up a little bit, but how did you choose the district that you're currently at or have previously been at? And if you could share your educational journey, your own going through college and then after college and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so I grew up in Oxnard, and I went to UC Santa Barbara for undergrad, and then I stayed there to work on my credential, my teaching credential, and my master's. So when I was in the master's program, I actually had someone from the district that I worked in for 19 years come out and recruit. They were looking for equal representation. The students in Ventura County, they're the majority are Hispanic, but the teacher force at the time was not. And that district was really trying to reach out for students of color to come to their school and to teach students that look like them. And that really impacted me. I really felt like I needed to be in a district that was looking for that was looking to have equity, that was looking to have teachers that looked like the community they were working in. I remember having maybe one or two teachers that looked like me that I felt like, oh, I could do that. It was my sixth grade teacher that was the first teacher that I felt that looked like me, and that truly, it wasn't until sixth grade that I really saw someone that actually like encouraged me and looked like me. I think that was huge. That was a big impact. That's the year I chose to not be a police officer and be a teacher. So she was really influential in my choices and my starting my career really. And I was fortunate. I was blessed to be able to work with her as an administrator. She was my assistant principal for a couple of years before I became an assistant principal. So
Oh, wow. So you kind
yeah,
of gained that mentorship.
right. Yeah, she taught me the ropes, which is, all the way from sixth grade. She was my sixth
Mm.
grade teacher. And then when I just recently became an administrator, she's definitely someone that I still go to and ask for advice because, she's one of the reasons that, that I'm here and that I saw myself reflected in her. So she's
Mhm.
been a great role model for me.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so I would love to know if you have educational philosophy, especially with learning from your mentor. Hopefully, this kind of ties together with this question.
Yeah, I think as an administrator, one of the biggest things that I've seen, and that I just, finished sharing with the staff is that my why, the reason I became a teacher is I saw someone that looked like me, that motivated me, and every day, like I just strive to be that person for somebody else, to encourage someone else to see themselves in me. Like I always share with students that my parents didn't have an education, both of them combined have like a sixth grade education. They didn't have the opportunities that I've had, and like I always try to tell students, even if they don't speak the language, even if they don't have a degree, your parents are still your first teachers.
Mm.
So I try to always encourage them to go to their parents and to value their culture and their background and their language. I'm at a school where I have students that speak three different languages. They speak English, Spanish, and Mixteco, which is an indigenous language. And my biggest philosophy is you want to maintain your culture. There's no reason why you can't have your language, your culture, respect your parents, your home culture, and still be successful in education. Like those things shouldn't contradict each other. And I think that's often how I felt growing up. Like I can't still be part of my culture and proud of it and be successful. So I think that's a big influence. I constantly try to encourage students to see that there is a mix, that you can maintain all of those things and um, still have a degree and pursue that.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you. Um, More questions. How do you ensure that all students feel equally important and represented in the classroom? This can be learning styles or cultures, and I think this like it can go both ways with your experience being a teacher and now administrator.
Well, as a teacher, I think I mean, I taught social studies, so it was just perfect. We always talked about, um, your rights as a student, your rights as a community member, your rights as just a person in general. I think that was always like at the key of just my classroom. I always wanted to make sure that students felt um, represented, they felt they were heard, and at the same time, I would always try to do differentiating for them. Like, obviously I've been successful in education, but there are a lot of students that just sitting and taking, being a lecture type of system doesn't work for everyone. So I would always try to mix it up for them, make sure people had access, students had access, different types of students, whether it was special ed students, GATE students, just trying to differentiate within the classroom to be sure all students were really having access to the education and to the core curriculum that was um, important for me. Let's see, and really just knowing my students. I think that was always key. Knowing my students, knowing where they came from, knowing if they spoke another language,
Mm.
knowing a lot about their family. That was always very important. I try to bring it into the lessons that I'd incorporate so that they knew that I knew something about them. I would have a lot of little conversations about their hobbies, what they were watching, just so that I could incorporate that and they felt seen.
Yeah.
That's always the goal, that kids know that someone knows them, someone sees them, and someone values what they believe in and what they love.
Yeah. I think that's very important. Also, with the pandemic and everything being virtual, I think it's very vital for someone to understand where the other person's at and their families because it just impacts them a lot. I'm aside from being staff member, I'm also a student, so I know what it's like to for your mentors to know what's going on in your household. At least as on the student side, it's very important for me for my professors to know that. So thank you for sharing that and for valuing that for your students. um, Okay, what drives you to continue to do everything in your power to help your students prosper?
What drives me? It's gonna sound really weird, but my son is really my why. What drives me on a daily basis.
Mm.
Every time I see his brown little face, I just I see the kids that are at the school, and um, I try to make sure that in my classroom, as soon as I had my son, he's 12 now, but as soon as I had my son, my perspective on discipline, on my classroom completely changed. Um, I try to treat every kid as if they were my own, and, discipline as if they were my own. I love you and therefore I'm correcting you.
Yeah.
Same thing here at school as an administrator. It's like, you guys are all my children. I have, 850 children, and it's my responsibility that all of these kids go out there and make me proud
Mm.
and represent our community well, and that I'm preparing them. That the adults on this campus are doing everything in their power to prepare them so that they can then interact with my child in society. That is so important.
Okay.
And I tell them, I was like, my kid is in this community, my kid is at this school, and if it's good enough for my kid, then it's good enough for you. And that's what I expect from teachers as well. I
Yeah.
expect those teachers to do their very best. Why? Because my son is here too.
Mhm.
He deserves the very best, just like all the kids at this school. Um, I think that's my why. That's what motivates me on a daily basis. And I am finishing up my doctorate, and every time I want to quit, my son is my biggest like supporter. He's like,
Oh,
"Mommy, you can't quit. You've spent too much time and money."
yeah. Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's congratulations.
What he keeps me on my toes. He's always telling me, "No, no, no, you're almost done. Keep going. Finish strong, mom."
Yeah. Wow. And it's also building the next generation, building those pathways for them, just how you, our mentor, was able to help you and you're helping now the students and then eventually obviously your son. So that's great to hear. Thank you for sharing. Um, okay. What advice would you give someone who's pursuing a career in the educational field, and what should they expect?
Advice, just make sure that, I mean, it really makes a difference. A lot of people will talk about being on the right bus, be at the right district, be at a district where you're going to feel supported, where they believe in the same things that you believe in, because that will make or break your career. You will want to go to work because you work with people that love the same things that you love, that are striving to give equity and access to students. When you have that, like that drives me. Making sure that we're providing students equity and access to an education, empowerment. If the district was not talking about those things, if that wasn't a priority, then for me, it would be, my job would be lifeless. I wouldn't want to come to work.
Yeah.
But every day I feel like I'm striving for that, striving for empowerment. The people around me are doing the same thing. They're it's an everyday like struggle to give and to provide the community with something better. And on a daily basis, I feel like if you can, on a daily basis, it's a competition within yourself to be better and to provide more. I think that will just keep you going. It's not just a career, it's not just a job. For me, it's like a calling.
Mm.
And I think that if you look at your job that way, and your job in education, your career in education, that you don't really feel like you're working, because it's what you love, it's your passion. What to expect? There's going to be some awesome days, and there's going to be days where you find out something about your students, where your heart is broken, where you feel like parents complain or they don't support you, where maybe a colleague doesn't support you. So there's going to be heartbreak. I mean, if you're really passionate about what you're doing, there's going to be some disappointment. But in the end, for me, I always feel like, I did everything I could, and I can sleep at night knowing that the next day I'm going to just keep going. I'm going to keep at it. So, I mean, I think that's the biggest expectation, that sometimes you're not going to, sometimes you're going to fail, and that's okay. You're going to fail, and you're just going to fail fast, fail forward, and get up and keep going, because
Yeah,
that's just what your students need from us. So,
absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So, as an administrator, what knowledge could you share about supporting Latinx teachers and future teachers?
well, I think just being present, being a person of color and persevering for such a long time, after 20 years. Um, and I think just being positive really is a huge support for students, for future teachers, letting taking people under your wing, and providing support, and just being real. I think being real, because a lot of times, there's people that will claim to support you, and then you're disappointed because they are not being, truthful about what's really going on. Just being a person of color, there are, especially a leader, there will be people that will question your ability, will question your right to be there, really.
Mm.
And just prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. Always try to do your very best. And that's the main reason why I pursued the whole doctorate, because I mean, I know I'm awesome, but it gives you credibility. It gives you some credibility with some of those people that might question whether you have a right to be there. Um, so that's definitely, if anybody ever questions it, it's like, drop the mic. Dr. Montano, what's going on?
Right. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, absolutely. You are amazing. You are. You're gonna make me want to become a teacher too. I'm like, okay. I'm over here trying to get my MBA. Yes, but thank you so much for being here, taking the time, sharing a lot of knowledge. I learned a lot. I feel motivated already. Um, but is there anything else that you'd like to share with future teachers, or just in general, anything else that you would like to say?
I think the biggest thing is just really, a lot of people talk about self care. That's been a big a big thing this past year, but really doing it. Um, I think most people that go into the teaching profession, you get burnt out because you care so much about your students, you care so much about your like I spend so much money on my school, my class, um, and you give so much, and making sure you take time for yourself. Make sure you balance life, family, your own personal life. You take time for yourself, and that's key because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. That's been, I haven't always done it, and it's been, it affects your health, it affects your family interaction.
Mm.
And like I said, if you're not okay, if you're not 100%, you can't really give anyone else 100%. Your cup has to be full in order for you to fill other people. Um, so I guess that would be my biggest advice, and be honest about what you don't know. People are more willing to help you if you're humble and you let people know, I don't know how to do this. I need help. I need support. I think just being humble and being honest with others, people are more willing to help you out, and you don't have to do it all yourself. It's a team. It's a lot of people. It's a community.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a whole village that raises these kids, and it should be that way. So just be a good part of that village. I would say would be my advice.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining our Teacher Talk series. It's been a pleasure talking with you. So yeah, just I really appreciate you, and you are amazing. Congratulations on your doctorate, and your son is right. Keep on going. So thank you so much.
Thank you.